Today's podcast, we're going to be talking about art, really just visual art today. But really, my question is open, and I'll talk about this in a minute, is what do we look at when we are looking at art? What's our personal choices? Can we be looking at classical art, fine art, modern, cubism, or abstract? We can take our pick, if you like, from these various different genres. When we visit a museum, or even if we've got pictures hanging up on our walls at home, what do we have? We all probably have, those that like looking at art, have our favourite artists. I'm not going to go into a long list, but probably the artist that everyone knows about for various different reasons is Da Vinci. The classics, the Mona Lisa, the Last Supper, and many other favourites, as it were. He had a rival at the time, Michelangelo, him of the Sistine Chapel fame, who laid on his back and painted the ceiling there. It's not quite what happened, but yes, roughly, he built a frame and they did it. Staying in Italy, Canaletto painted some incredible, what we might call today, cityscapes. But yeah, Venice, which is an evocative city, he had a good subject there. Even at the time, more or less contemporary to when it was built. Moving on a bit, you've got one of my favourite artists personally is John Constable, a British artist. Partly this is because he painted some things in my area, in East Anglia in England. So I can relate to a lot of things he painted. Getting more abstract into, if you like, what we could call modern art. We got Monet, obviously very famous because there's been a recent exposition of his work, a very, very sensory exhibition as well. Picasso, him with the melting clock fame, very, very clever piece of art, very surreal, and very interesting. No, I've gone wrong there. Sorry. No, we've got Dali, who painted the melting clocks. Very surreal, very evocative, very interesting. Picasso. I've been to the Picasso Museum in Venice. Yeah, very interesting. I can't say I find him very warm as an artist. Fortunately, brilliant, technically good. I sometimes find some of his work very, very peculiar. And really getting, what we call 60s kind of modern art explosion, almost pop art, would be Warhol. Well, not the pop art, but Warhol. I find his work very interesting, very clever. Interesting in today is that it's easy to look at and think, oh, that's easy to do. When he did it, it was difficult. Randy Warhol, and with Pollock, haven't got a clue. Do not understand his art at all. I don't mind modern art. I don't mind abstract. I like to be able to look at something and see what it is, even if it isn't an absolute true representation of reality, like fine art and classical art would be. But, I like things that are creative. I don't understand what the fuss about Pollock is. So my question open to Steve is now, what are the reasons we have art, and is it important to us?
So before I answer this, you know that I'll have quite a bit to say about it. Just need to look over my shoulder, but I'll put a question to you because you said that Andy Warhol fascinated you with his work. So expand on that a little bit, why it was fascinating and which work you thought would best explain his art that fascinated you so much.
Right. Okay. He painted a a Coke can, which is pop art, which I found interesting, very evocative, very simple, perfectly done. And I suppose the famous picture of Marilyn Monroe, the lithograph, as it were, with the different colours. Yeah. Okay, used a picture, but he still had to do it by hand, very patient. For me, it's something you could walk in a room and notice, to grasp at. You know, it's evocative. It raises emotions. Maybe it's because now we know who Marilyn Monroe is or was. There could be other emotional connections with her story. I just found it a very, very, at the time, it was a revolutionary concept of what he did. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
Art, I suppose, are statements of how the world is at that particular time.
Mm.
You have, if you're going back, even back down to the cave paintings, you know, they depicted what was around them or what they could see, albeit in a very rudimentary way.
Yeah.
They pictured when the season of the buffalo was arriving, you know, because they'd have a lot of buffaloes on the wall of the caves and things like that. And you know, it sort of go on from there. You know, the landscapes that you talk about, you know, a capture. It's like taking a photograph, I suppose.
Yeah.
That of those that are the impressionists, that the you know, those that go into great detail on painting portraits of people. You know, they depict, you know, who the people were, and you know, at the time of them being alive. You know, as you can see over my shoulder, there are two works of art. One is by Bartholomew, this side.
Yeah.
And this one is from my eldest son called John. Which it's Michael's birthday today. I can't get his name out of my head. John, and he was, I think he was 13 when he did this one. The Falling Cubes picture. And if you looked inside my apartment here, it's got art, paintings, a lot from my son, Roberto Ribeiro, who's a local painter here. You say about a picture that draws you. You know, I was walking through the shopping centre, and how I met Roberto Ribeiro. He had an exhibition, and one of his paintings is Sonho Amazona, the Amazonian Dream.
Yeah.
Which I had to buy. I bought it from him, and I didn't even care how much it cost. I just said, "How much is it?" He said, "What do you want it for?" I said, "It's none of your business. How much is it? How much is it?" He told me. I said, "Right." I went down to the bank and I took the money out and I paid him. Wellington Senna. He was my eldest son's art teacher. Got some pieces from him. I've got Peter Bauer, a German guy. He's probably the most expensive piece of art I've got here, because it's a little tiny painting this side. But it costs about £100 when I bought it, you know. And once again, it was one of those things that you saw it and you think, that's it. That's it. That's, you know. And like I said, Bartholomew, we met Bartholomew. This is in 1991.
Yeah.
He had an exhibition in one of the banks. We were walking past the bank, and I looked, and we bought 3 pictures of his auroral settings in Brazil. You see the little house in the road, you know, and the barn next to the house. You know, so in terms of specializing in a particular style, I don't really do that. I'm more eclectic.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
what it draws my attention. We've
Yeah.
got Ricardo Hollander.
Mm.
He's a renowned painter.
Mm.
I believe he's from the next state up from Paraíba.
Yeah.
Uh, Basically, I got interested in art because of my eldest son when he was
Mm.
studying to be he went to art school.
Mm.
And here it's a they're all the schools are private, so it's a
Yeah.
private art school. Just
Yeah.
dedicates it onto art, you know. Got pieces from Kenya.
Mm.
Uh,
It's more the emotional connection you have with
that's right.
things.
Like I said,
Um,
you see it and you go, that's it, that's it, that's it. And
yeah.
the funny thing is that two people can see the same piece of art, and
Yeah.
the two people can come away with two different conclusions.
Yeah.
So it's the old adage that beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
You know
Um,
that I'm not one of these people that are going to try and find or try and understand,
mm.
try and interpret
Mm.
exactly what each brushstroke
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
artist is trying to, because I think, that is open to so many different interpretations that,
Y-
I can tire very quickly
Yeah.
about if somebody goes on about, brushstrokes
Yeah.
and this, and that, if it's nice, it's nice.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm very eclectic,
Mm.
so it's not like I'm just honing in on one particular style or
Yeah.
one particular era
Yeah.
or one particular artist. It's like I said, I'm quite eclectic when it comes to this sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have a lot of pictures in our house. It's not, yeah, I do draw a bit, very amateur. Well, I say amateurish. I can do things. I got taught that. I got taught technical drawing as well. So I combine the two sometimes.
Mm.
I won't sound great. I just enjoy doing it. I draw pictures for the most important person I know, me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I won't always show my pictures. They mean
I,
something to me. Yeah.
I think most fine artists do.
Yeah.
They paint and they draw for
Yeah.
themselves. It's because it gives them pleasure. You mentioned technical drawing.
Mm.
This painting here behind me.
Yeah.
If you look at it closely, you won't be able to see it from there. You won't be able to
Yeah.
see it from there. But
Yeah.
my ex-brother-in-law,
Mm.
he's a civil engineer.
Yeah.
So he does a lot of technical drawings
Yeah.
for buildings and things.
Mm.
And he just needed to look just 2 seconds, and he said it's
Yeah.
wrong. He
Yeah.
said that painting. He said it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong. That structure shouldn't be like that. It should
No.
have fallen down by now.
Yeah.
Because of his civil engineering
Yeah.
training.
Well, yeah, because you can do it. Because what you do is you draw the lines and go to a point in the distance,
Yeah,
and
I
then
know.
you draw the lines up for. And that's the way I would do it. And
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I will look at it and I can see that. But sometimes I think, well, it's a nice picture, and so what? Quite frankly, so what? If you're looking at, it's like you said a couple of weeks ago about you listening to music and recording. You listen to
Yeah.
the technical process. I'll listen to it just to enjoy it. Yeah, I mean this is it. Yeah, I mean I understand all that. Yeah, coming down. Yeah, from a point in the
Perspective.
distance. Yeah,
Perspective.
perspective. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yes, perspective. And yeah, because you can do different lines of perspective, and sometimes you'll get people that will play around with perspective as well. What people misunderstand sometimes is when I was talking about Canaletto. If you actually look at Canaletto's drawing, they took a picture of the same scene. He played around with it as well, and even the structures of the buildings are probably wrong. Yeah, but they work as a picture.
Mm.
The beauty of drawing something yourself is you don't have to have real world, and you can take out exactly what you want. If you don't like something, take it out. One of the most interesting things I ever heard about was a guy who paints steam locomotives in England, mainly from the Western Railway. and I've just thought of this, remembered this. And one day he painted something, and he was talking to someone who was looking like you, casually looking at his picture, and said, "Where is it of?" And he thought, I think he thought, hold up, I can't tell the guy. He said, "It's of nowhere. I took the loco, I took another scene, put that together." And he said, to say to the guy, "Sorry, disappointing." He said, "No, it's wonderful. It can be wherever I want it to be." Which I thought was a wonderful statement. That's art. As you said, you can look at a picture and like it. It doesn't necessarily have to represent accurately something that you really, really, know.
Well, if you remember, I was on about the Kabbalah the other week.
Yeah.
Right. And part of the Kabbalah, it says that our perception of the world is not necessarily the world. Because we have our eyes, we have our five senses.
Yeah.
And we only perceive what our senses are going to tell us.
Yes.
So I can look at something and you can look at something, but we may not necessarily see the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. And the reality is only what we say the reality is. So somebody can paint a landscape, and it can mean it. It can look nothing like the landscape.
Yeah.
The artist is not taking a photo. He's painting.
Yeah.
He's interpreting what he can see, what he can hear, what he can smell, what he can smell. And if he's eating something, what he's eating, painting eating a peach, all of a sudden his painting, his painting can become very peachy.
Yeah.
in what he's painting.
Yeah.
So he's gonna do his reality, his fantasy, if you like, because reality doesn't necessarily exist. It's only our perception of reality.
Yeah.
That he's trying to put down on canvas or whatever it is, or paper or whatever it is that his medium is. So that's been taken into consideration, which is why, once again, these people that go try and delve too deeply into why a painter has done what he's done, only being stood at the side of the painter and him saying, "I'm going to do it like this because," will we really ever know?
Well, it's like a joke I heard about this, that somebody one day saying the blue curtains mean this, and the painter said, "No, I just painted blue curtains. They matched where it was." Obviously when you're painting, you can't always draw things from the real world direct, or paint in the real world, because it doesn't work as a painting. Different colors don't always go together, funny enough. And sometimes you have to make things more vivid or less vivid, depending on what you're trying to say. Obviously, when we talk about perspective, you don't put a lot of detail when you're drawing or painting in the background, because that's what it is. It's the background. In reality, I can look out and I can see probably an individual leaf on a tree. I can look out my window here and see it probably from 30 meters away. Yet if I was drawing or painting it, I wouldn't do that. I would just do this. Your brain will fit things in. Another trick you always like for perspective and then to add character is to paint white, just white stripes. Sometimes your brain will adapt them to give texture. It's quite a funny thing, psychological. I mean, artists will sometimes play psychological games with us. So they mix it already with reality. It's an impression of what we want to see. Our brains work it out. It's like you're saying, the picture behind you. A guy who wants to actually look at it and says that building isn't going to stand up. Well, no, who cares? It's two-dimensional at that point. He's looked for a three-dimensional and only seen a two-dimensional. I'll look at it, with a non-critical eye. And I have done that with pictures. I do that, and I look with respect and know that's wrong, but it works as a picture.
Well, all I can say to my ex-brother-in-law is that I had this painting since '91, and the building's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. yeah, I mean, yeah, this isn't, yeah, it's, well, yeah, I mean, it's, mind you, I do look at some structures in Brazil and I do wonder how they do stay up, to be quite honest. Yes, some of them. Yeah.
It's when you start adding that third dimension, that's when it complicated.
Oh, yeah, yeah, oh, yeah. You can't put that in. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the other question is, when we're looking at something, we're only looking at something in two dimensions, even when we look at something.
When you are looking at paintings, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Well, again, but if you look directly at something, I'm looking at I've got a desktop. I'm old fashioned, old school. I've got a desktop here and I'm looking at a box. I can only see three surfaces. Okay, it's 3D or two surfaces, but I'm still only seeing a flat ID. My brain has told me there's a behind on it. It's like your son's pictures of the cubes behind. You can see the translucent behind the cube. Yeah, and that's what our brain does. It fills in what we can't see. If you ever look at some clever pictures, sometimes the artist can suggest something, and like the door half open and something going on behind it. We can't see exactly what it is, but our brains can operate on such a level with experience of things that we know what is going on, or we imagine what's going on. Yeah, gives us a bit of a glimpse of something. Yeah, I mean, this, it's like I say, there's all sorts of tricks that we get played with art, and yeah, and again, getting back to Da Vinci as well, and just changing the subject. Da Vinci, I mean, people have looked at his painting of the Last Supper and tried to read all sorts of symbolisms and ideas into it that may or may not exist. I've seen people explain it, and I've seen other people debunk them. He'd have painted things in the world around him, whether or not he'd have put codes in or anything else. Another famous picture I've seen, or reasonably famous, was one of I can't remember who painted it, of the nativity scene, Jesus being born, and at the back of the barn there's a cross. Spoiler. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a, I mean, yeah, it's getting to religious art, which is something different, but yeah, it is a, artists can put exactly what they want. They can paint fictional scenes and make it real, or what we believe is real as well. If you've ever, I mean, yeah, when you go to a museum, and going to a museum is incredible for art. Actual museum and seeing the original pictures, paintings of things. Like I spoke about John Constable, my favourite painting of all time probably is the Haywain he's done. I have seen the original in the National Gallery in London. Again, an incredible experience for me, quite moving. I've seen it pictures thousands of times, but again, when I actually saw the absolute original, it's almost standing in front of it for 10 minutes, just observing everything on it. Didn't really enrich my knowledge or what I felt about the picture. I mean, I know enough to bet it that nobody would drive a haywain or any wagon into the river like he did and try and do it, because we get stuck apart from anything else. You couldn't get a horse to do it normally. You'd have to be dragging the horse from the front, because horses like to see what they're walking on, funny enough. So again, that's artistic license. It's a scene that wouldn't happen. Perfectly balanced picture.
On the other side of the coin, I think the most disappointing piece of art in the world, in terms of seeing it live, in terms of seeing it in against the wall, there's got to be the Mona Lisa.
Oh, exactly, so yeah.
When I went to the Louvre in Paris and saw it, it was almost I thought it was an echo, but it wasn't. I think it was other people saying the same thing, and is that it then?
Is that what it does? Yeah, yeah.
Well, is she smiling? Is she not? Me personally, I think it was a smirk.
Yeah.
And I think it's because when the painter was painting her, I think he dropped his guts, and she was trying not to laugh.
Yeah. Enigmatic.
And
yeah.
and he captured that there.
Well, I mean, yeah, you look at it. I mean, technically, it's a good picture, and yeah, they needs
But
to.
it's tiny. We expected it to be
Oh yeah,
a
yeah,
larger than what it is, and
yeah.
it's
I
like
know.
I've
I've
seen
seen you.
postage stamps bigger.
Yeah, that doesn't help. It's behind all them security things as well, and
Well,
if it's
that doesn't really bother me.
but
That
yeah,
doesn't. I mean, I
uh,
don't want to touch it. I just want to see it. And
yeah.
it's just, if they say that size doesn't matter, I think in when it comes to the Mona Lisa, yes, it does.
Yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. Is this what it? I mean, no, technically, it's a brilliant picture. I mean, he was a great artist in proportions. He understood the world, like you say. It's technically, it's brilliant. Um, it's. I like it as a picture. I will admit that. Um, yeah, maybe there isn't. You can't quite understand excitement or the buzz around it. Sometimes you look at it and think, well, but he kept it all his life. I think it was a commissioned piece and he didn't give it over or something. But Da Vinci did that a lot of the time. He had a lot of unfinished commissions as well. He took the money and ran sometimes. Um, he was a bit, yeah. Um, I think he was an absolute, careful I say, genius in many ways. And you see other things he did. I mean, yeah, we were talking about there's been talk about who she is. There's been a Japanese, I suppose, AI organization or something have actually taken her bone structures and everything else and tried to work out how she actually sounded when she spoke, which is actually quite eerie. Yeah.
Well, you never know. It could be that the Mona Lisa is the world's very first trans. That would be interesting.
Well, yeah. Given the Da Vinci's history, he was, yeah, okay. Well, I
Which is
won't go
why,
into.
which is she probably sat for the photo nude, and that's why we only see the head and shoulders. Because if you went down there,
Yeah.
you'd see a huge knob.
Yeah. Oh dear. Yeah. She might
Yeah,
she might have she might
I thought I'd lower the conversation a bit.
Yeah. Did she win a women's swimming competition? That's the question
That's
we'd have to ask
yeah,
then.
right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I can't look at it again now, thinking of that now. Um, yeah, we probably ruled it down completely for, all, we could start a trend on it.
Anybody watching this now, I think there's going to be a line of people going to the Louvre now.
Uh, uh, I mean, yeah, no, I went there years ago. I've seen it twice, actually. Yeah, I took my wife there as well after I'd been once. But yeah, I mean, again, it's a technically good picture. Um, yeah, Constable's Highway, probably because I know the area as well, and I stood more or less where he painted it from. And again, you look at that, there are a few changes in that. It's a tourist place now in England. It evokes a lot of things in people. You can actually see Willie Lott's house, the house in the picture to the side. You can go and see that, which is now an educational centre. Yeah, I mean, you could imagine him standing there doing it, painting it. Which is interesting.
If you want
Yeah.
something political, how about this? If you leave it to Angela Rayner, there'll be a housing estate there now.
Have you ever seen the Terry Gilliam cartoon? You can't get it online now because of copyright. Anyway, Terry Gilliam did that. Terry Gilliam of Monty Python fame
yeah.
actually did that where he made it into an urban landscape. Absolutely, I think it was Terry Gilliam. I'm sure it was. Yeah, I remember seeing it years ago on telly, watching my parents, and shock horror. And the tractor came and dragged away the hay line, and then put all these things around, and the polluted river and everything. Yeah, somebody's already done that.
Turned it into a Lowry.
Yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. Yes, yeah. The Matchstick Men and Matchstick Cats and Dogs. Yeah. I like Lowy as well. Actually, very
Yeah, I do.
modern.
I
Yeah,
do.
I think he captured something that was even reminiscent of today. I've been to the north. I've been to the northern hell, as it were. I've been walked around. You could just imagine what it was like in his time 20s, 1920s even, and yeah, the landscapes, again, urbanscapes. He painted what he saw. Very honest painter.
Very
Criticised
simple.
at the time.
Very. I think it's very simplistic what he did.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
I'm not going to delve into why he did it like he did. It could be argued that he did it like he did because it's quicker.
no,
And as the kids were playing in the street, he wanted to capture kids playing in the street, and so quickly did little.
yeah. Well,
I'm not going to go on. I'm not going to delve too deep into that. But
no. I mean, they were.
I like it because of its
Yeah.
simplicity.
Well,
Simplicity,
it's a
and
scene we can.
it captures a moment in time.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
captures that era. That era.
yeah,
In fact, if you think about it, all art does, independent of
yeah,
songs do, as we
yeah,
know,
yeah,
paintings do,
yeah.
plays do.
Well,
You know,
yeah.
theatre does.
I mean, that's it. Sometimes you can't update a piece of work. Would his work, if you went there and painted that in a similar way now, would it work now? I'm not going to answer it yet, but it's again, it captures our emotion. Yeah,
I can imagine somebody going painting the ULEZ zones in London. I'm
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I'm sure that in another 100 years there'll be people will be buying them for buying them for thousands of pounds.
No, the ULEZ with the Blade Runners. Yeah, sorry, yeah. Anyone who's not familiar with that, look it up. ULEZ, ULEZ, Blade Runner. Yeah, very. I'm not encouraging that type of behaviour. Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, well, I think we can obviously say, I mean, art is an emotional journey. It's an emotional experience. Looking at a picture. It's even good when a piece of art leaves you cold because it has at least made you think about it.
Well, it's an emotion. It's an emotion.
Yeah. It maybe you like the picture because it makes you feel cold.
Nonchalance is an emotion.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, we talk about modern art. One of the weirdest things I ever saw was in the Tate Modern in London. I have been to art galleries in Brazil, but yeah, the Tate Modern, where it was just a piece of cloth, that's in, with a slash in it. Somebody got a knife and put a slash in it and put that up as a bit of art.
Yeah.
I have